I am super excited to be going on a bit of an adventure now with two of my best friends. Yeah, my wife and Mr. Ted of Galena, Haunted Galena Tour Company, and of course the Galena Paranormal.
Woo! Hi everyone.
We are heading towards the Winston Tunnel, which has a checkered at best history, I think. It would be fair to say. Dating back to the late 1800s when it
First built, 1887 to 1888. It took 350 workmen 2 years to dig the tunnel, and there was several deaths along the way. Then it opened and things just got worse. So today, as a haunted site, it's really fun. It's a little bit of a walk to get there, however.
So we'll pepper in facts and events from history as we go, because there's more than just the tunnel to see. So yeah, and I've never seen any of this area, and of course lots of ghost stories associated with it too. And Ted, you've been out here a time or two before, right?
I have been out here a time or two, and this land is actually quite sacred to the Native American tribes that used to live here. They called it Manitutumi, which means the land of God, and they believed that this was holy property. And out here there was very strange things that happened that were outside of normal experience that one might encounter. So with that, it could be an interesting walk today.
All right. Wendy, what are you looking forward to?
I'm excited to be hiking on an absolutely perfectly beautiful fall day.
All right. Yes.
So, and of course to see the site that we've heard so much about.
Yeah. Already some pretty steep terrain, and we're barely gotten started. Well, here we have some concrete on this side.
Oh, here we are.
Oh yeah, and there's a truss, some supports over here in the woods.
You know what this is?
It's the beginning of the elevated trains, the train line.
Elevated train, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we are shortly going to be coming across a house over here. And this is the elevated train area. These were the footings for the elevated train. You see there's two of them right here.
Yeah.
And they held up great big trestles that supported the track that went across this deep valley and joined up on the other side. Now, right after they finish the tunnel in 1888, trains start going through here. But one of these towers very early on collapses as the train's going across this bridge. Now with that, the engine and the first car or two behind it make it across, but 11 cars behind it crash down into this valley. There's a nearby house right over here as well. Now, there was a person killed in that crash in the caboose, and it's unclear as to whether or not he's an employee or perhaps someone who is riding the train, perhaps unauthorized, but definitely one person was killed in that accident as well. And we'll see that a lot with the Winston. There's a lot of death inside and around it that adds really quite an air of mystery to the woods here. It's creepy.
It's so weird to think of a train going overhead, in this area. It's so overgrown at this point.
Right? It's just, these are just the old ruins that we see now, but to think of the day that must have happened, it would have been really something. But it's so isolated. I mean, God only knows what, you wonder what has happened out here for years. Right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the lonely, quiet places are the creepiest.
I was just enjoying the, rarely do you ever get this kind of quiet or just your nature.
Now, over here to the right, as we approach here.
Oh, here we go.
Well, that's a dishwasher there to get to it. But it's evident in the old high bridge photos that you'll see that this was, a pretty nice house that was right just beyond and kind of at the footings of the high bridge that ran over this valley. So when that train crashed, there would have been people in here that would have most likely responded.
So cool.
Isn't it beautiful? With the high bridge only about an eighth of a mile, not even from this location, it would have been interesting seeing those trains go across every day.
Yeah.
And today it's just kind of an old ruin, but I love old ruins like this. And look at the stonework in it, and then of course they covered it up with a concrete and stucco and
Hi.
it's pretty impressive that, I mean, that wall is not braced by much of anything anymore, and it's still standing.
It's still standing. It's beautiful, I think.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts of the UK and Scotland is the old castles, which are
Sure.
reminiscent. These old, like,
Yeah.
freestanding, like you guys saw in Portugal, right?
Sure,
Just
yeah.
neat.
I love how the basement wall is bowed in down here, just
Right?
pushed in by the earth.
At night, or right around dusk, this place, quite frankly, would be, scary AF.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd have like these just contorted, grotesque like shapes everywhere, and the stone and the ghost of the people that used to dwell here, and I mean, it's rather brilliant.
Yeah. Exactly what we like to see. Yeah.
There'd be a big old wood stove, and the chimney ran right up the inside of the wall into the top there where it would be vented. Pretty cool.
You could walk right by it and not even see it.
Yeah.
Sitting back there so silently.
Right.
That's what really turns me on about it. This is an old, lost thing.
And chances are there's other divots around there where they may have had some outbuildings, like a shed
I
or
think there is, yeah.
things like that.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, in the old photographs, there's a barn that's actually up, I think, in this area. And I bet
okay.
if you went through that thickety shit, you'd probably
Yeah.
find the footings.
Yeah.
Well, thicky
Pretty
shit.
nifty. But I just like the old stone walls. Like
Yeah.
that. It's so fun to
I
get
love
inside.
that too.
Yeah.
I
It's
know.
really
Yeah.
neat, right? Just what's cool about this hike, it's like a combination of like archaeology and nature.
Oh, I
Totally.
love that.
You know?
Our favorite thing. Archaeology, nature, and paranormal.
Fair enough,
Yes.
Right? It's got it all.
So it's like the trifecta.
Going to point out on camera that when we parked, we were the only vehicle.
Right.
So if we hear any voices, we are probably the only people out here.
Right. Oh, that's true.
Yeah. And when walking, it's hard with all of the
Right.
sound. But plus we hear the birds. But kind of did feel like I heard a voice off into the ravine to the left. But it could have been anything. Who knows?
Could have been.
Those are grapes.
Those are grapes
Look at this.
growing over a conifer. Oh,
This is wild.
That invites a picture, right?
Yeah. Wild grapes. This is
That's really cool.
unexpected. Go for it. I mean, we can make our own wine out of this.
If you had a bunch of those, you could just smoke them. There'd be enough yeast in them to ferment naturally.
It's a very small batch.
Yeah. So little tiny bottles.
Yes.
Train wreck Pinot Noir.
As Ted had pointed out, you could see where the pieces of lumber, pieces of wood would go. And we're on the trail bed here. And off to the side, you can see that there's a ditch. It's lower down here, so it's a little bit elevated. Whoa. Okay. My gimbal just totally freaked out. Yeah, railroad tie. That's the word I was looking for. For example, you see all the railroad ties right there. Some even poking out still above the dirt. It's just been covered over. Oh, here's an old power line. Power pole right here.
Now we're getting close.
Yeah.
These are the power lines that go on to power the fan station.
That's hard to spot with the trees around.
Really hard to spot. Good eye, man. Oh, that's really.
So here's an interesting rock I found. So you think this is probably like the shale type of stuff, but look how rusted it is.
Yeah.
It was definitely up against something metallic.
Oh yeah. This is a piece. This is actually really important because when they started digging the tunnel, they came up and it looked like a limestone face, right? So what they thought was going to happen is we'd just start digging in and tunnel through limestone, which they had the technology to easily do. But as they get in about 20, 30 feet, the limestone changes to this, shale. Shale is extremely unstable and it's planar. It grows along these planes, and if you disrupt it at all, it's known to collapse in sheets. The Finnish man, John Hill, who was killed in the mine, was killed when a large chunk of shale literally fell off the roof and crushed him to death. So the man who was killed also in another mining accident in 1888, they tried using dynamite on this. Now, you can blow up a lot of shale and it works, but the problem is, see the flat side? The shale often comes out in like a plate type of rock.
Yeah.
Launch that with a piece of dynamite at close to 300 miles an hour, and it literally sails and could go and go and go. There's a man outside the mine, far outside the explosion zone. A piece of shale flew out and whacked him right in the back and pretty much ruined his kidneys. He dies a little later on that night. He dies 10 minutes before the doctor arrives, actually. And it was a piece of this stuff flying out of a mine. You can't blow shale up for that reason. You got to dig through it. That's part of the reason this tunnel was so brutal to get done. And also, why it's probably so likely haunted as it is. This is a really cool souvenir.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's just because we had that weird moment a little while ago where a knock, it felt like movement, and it felt like maybe we weren't alone, even if it was an animal, you know, not necessarily something evil, but it's felt a little bit more ominous, for me at least. I feel like I can't take my eyes off knowing that that's the tunnel, as if something's about to happen, or I don't want to turn my back on it at the very least. Our old retaining wall here.
Yeah. And see the drainage ditch was clearly engineered.
Underground water flow here. There's a metallic, rusted out shielding around it.
Oh, wow. With iron grommets on it.
Yeah.
There's footprints here. Really fresh.
Oh, look at that.
You've got foundations. This was a building here. It would have been one of the outbuildings for the pasture here. It might have been a station. And then right back up here, look at this large structure right here.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's an upper level there.
Yes.
Okay. If you look at the upper level, there's a couple of pipes that come down, or a pipe that comes
Oh,
down
yeah,
and
I see
goes
that
into
there.
the concrete. I
Yeah.
believe what that was is up above there was a large diesel tank. And that diesel then would have gone down and fed an engine that rotated a giant fan. I think this is the ruins of the fan house.
Interesting.
And they had a large box that went over to the entrance. And if you look at the entrance, there's like layers. There's kind of an outer layer there, and they built a secondary layer across the front. And it blew huge amounts of air into that and forced all the steam and shit, down that way.
The ruins that we are looking at are of this large building you see on the left side of the frame here. This was the fan house. These huge coal-burning steam engines would fill Winston Tunnel with this thick, heavy, black smoke that made people traveling on these trains almost pass out. It was a horrific journey through here until they eventually built this fan station to try to blow the smoke out through the tunnel. So that's what we're looking at here. Oh man, that looks so cool with the tree blocking the entrance.
Right?
Out of a Stephen King book. What sound?
Turn. Knock back.
I can see more. Is anybody in there?
If you're in there, if you want to say anything to us, I'm holding a device in my hand. I'm waving it at you. Come and speak into this device and we might be able to hear what you're saying. Who are you? Are you Mr. Hill who died building the tunnel? Are you Virginia Funston who died just outside the tunnel? Did you die in the tunnel?
Freaks me out. I am on top. Whoa. Some animal came bounding over here. I think it's still there. Not gonna lie, happy to not be on top of the tunnel. That don't really have exactly a fear of heights, but that would not be fun to cave in the Winston tunnel and free fall to a not nice landing.
The echo of that is
Yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. I was on top and I was trying to extend the phone over to look straight down on you guys. And which, of course, I'm nervous up there because I don't want to cave in. And so while I'm up there being very nervous, some animal came charging at me.
No.
It was probably a squirrel or something like that, but it just absolutely, I must have been like near its home or something.
No
And
shit.
I didn't see it, but I could hear it coming and it was like screeching and it came like right at my feet.
Is there any hardware on the top of them?
No.
No bolts or anything like that?
Doesn't seem to be, no. It's flat. I mean, there could have been something that went across at one point in time.
Right down in front of you.
Yeah, that's what I was coming to look at. Yeah. Just one.
All right.
Old, rotten away rubber gasket right here. I don't know if you can see this at all. I mean, this was quite the structure. I mean, I've seen the one photo, but man, these are huge pieces of concrete left behind.
Really big pieces.
Yeah.
But you know, that thing was like a 310 horsepower monster motor. You would have had some pretty heavy facing for it.
Sure.
Stable, attached to a fan. Also, there's another metal box down here, right down here that
Oh.
looks like a large tank down here too.
Okay.
So that could have been like maybe a diesel tank. Maybe they.
The reserve up here. No, I was just getting my phone out. What you just heard was me responding to someone asking if I was able to capture that roar. It was at this point we started hearing, honestly, what just sounded like large wild animal roars. And you see Ted, his expression right there is he doesn't know what's going on. We heard this strange, unexpected roar 5 or 6 times. Only once do I faintly get it on camera here. We haven't heard this whole time. I have no idea what that sounds.
You just heard it again?
Yeah, I was rolling that time. Finally. We got here, which was amazing. And we jumped right into investigating. But there's some stories that we should talk about here first that we haven't yet talked about on camera.
Right.
Including my favorite story, maybe any spooky, weird X-Files-y, Twilight Zone-y, the horse.
There's a long history when this place was operating as a train tunnel of things disappearing into the tunnel and never being seen again. One day, there was in 1888, there's 89, right when this opened, a man is coming through and he's got a horse, and he's got his horse packed with stuff, and so they're going to camp out along the way, and he takes they kind of unpack and get settled in for the night. And he takes his horse down along the tracks, and the horse spooks and runs right into the tunnel. Well, they have a telegraph system. They are the people here. They alerted the far end of the tunnel, hey, beware, there's a horse coming out. The rest of the men went into the tunnel to try and flush the horse out the far end, and the horse never came out. At the other end, the tunnelmen were waiting for the horse, and it literally just disappears and was never seen again. This kind of stuff has also been reported with deer and other large game that in the winter, hunters have pursued it, have disappeared into the tunnel and then never came out when the tunnel was in operation. So it is really like a metaphysical tunnel into nowhere, like a time slip. And the evidence of this is like not just one or two. There's a bunch of stories of this kind of phenomenon happening. So it's genuinely creepy. Yeah, even in the experience we just had there a few minutes ago. If you ever get a chance to get to this corner of the state, it's a little bit of a hike, but it's well worth it.
Yeah.
Just don't venture into the tunnel by yourself.
Of course.
We like you here.
Yeah. And on the investigation today, you thought you may have heard something.
I did. As we were filming over there and talking, there were some changes I was noticing with a particular lens or filter on my camera. Deep in the tunnel, there appeared to be what looked like motion. It was really odd. And it's that kind of weird motion, almost like SLS makes, where it's not making sense, but there was motion. And all of a sudden, we banged the stick, and Wendy at that point captured this weird phenomenon. I could have swore I heard a voice that said a name. I can't quite make it out. It sounded like, or something like that. It was really creepy. I don't think I had my video or audio rolling at that point, so of course, but it was fairly clearly a voice coming back there. So that was pretty creepy.
Yeah, and the three of us were stepping a bit further back, and at one point, after Wendy said something loudly, and we heard her echo back, after that, we thought we heard a vocalization of some sort, too.
Right.
I couldn't make out any words, but it wasn't a whisper, it was a voice.
It was a voice, yeah. Really strange stuff.
Coming out of the
tunnel, which is incredibly dark and creepy. Now we're hearing an odd animal off in the distance.
Yeah, we have no idea what it sounds
like a yell of some kind.
Yeah.
And I've never heard that noise before. I have no idea what it is.
To me, it almost like to describe it, it would be the sound of like an 18-wheeler and those hollow wheels, going through a tunnel.
Yeah.
A highway, kind of.
Almost, yeah, I can't even emulate it, really, but it's whatever it is, it's very large. It's not like
5 or 6 times, maybe.
I
I usually don't get this way where I creep myself out. I mean, it happens to all of us.
Sure.
But I'm telling you, there's a little bit of a vibe that something's a little bit off here.
Yeah.
It's cool, it's still peaceful and all that, but it's
not.
You can't fully relax here.
No, and when people like Native American tribes and other folks that have been out here over the years all have just sort of a strange thing to tell. The railroad people were terrified of it and all shared their stories, and it was somewhat of a legend in those communities. So this isn't something that just got invented in the past 5 years. It's been around for a long time, and the presence in this area has been around for a long time. So it's hard to say exactly what it is. But it's not hard to say that it's not right. There's just something off here. Come out and experience it for yourself.
Yeah.
Bring someone with you.
Yeah.
We had some weird experiences here.
Yeah.
We captured some pretty weird images and sounds.
And I'm not going to lie to you, I'm going to feel a little bit more comfortable the more distance we get from this tunnel.
You know what? I feel like we've been in the presence of something that isn't necessarily really good for us or helpful.
Right.
It's just got kind of a bad vibe. I can't wait to get here, but I also can't wait to get out of here.
I'm glad I have been here.
Yeah. That says it all.
Back at home now, it's been a few weeks since doing this excursion. It was such a blast. We went through all the footage. We did not capture any EVPs. Nothing was recorded that was unexplainable, even though we did hear some things with our unaided ears from time to time. Strangest thing to me that really stuck with me, probably more than anything, the uneasy feeling of being there, but then also that weird roar that we heard a number of times. Unfortunately, we only barely captured it once. Doing more research, and this is from Ted directly. At one point, section workers repairing track were driven out of the tunnel by a mysterious cougar-sized cat on several occasions. From that point on, the section chief carried a shotgun whenever he was close to the tunnel. That terrifying beast was never identified or shot. It does make me wonder, is this some sort of a cryptid or mythical creature? I have no idea. I'm just happy we didn't encounter a bear on the hike out of there. In the span of about 10 minutes, we heard a roar about a half a dozen times, and we didn't hear anything before it or after it, with hours on each side of that, only to find out later that historically, railroad workers did encounter a large cougar-like creature. I don't know what to make of it. I do find it fascinating, but thank you so much, Ted, and the Haunted Galena Tour Company for taking us on this expedition. I was so excited to finally see this location myself. Thank you all for watching.